Well, basically, we're going to allow the American people and the people in the EU to know what will be in an agreement. And it will have to go before the representatives of the people in the United States and the U.S. Congress. It will have to go through 28 member governments over here. And as time goes on, more and more is being released on what would be in the agreement. It's an agreement that has been reached by both sides. It's not one side telling the other side they have to do something. And so over time, there's going to be more transparency, greater knowledge and awareness of what's being done. We've had 4 sets of talks, but we really haven't gotten into the serious negotiations yet, and that will come out. And at the end of the day, we're talking about democracies here. At the end of the day, the representatives of the people will say yay or nay to the proposed agreement. Well, in the United States, we have a miracle in the agricultural sector. We have about 1% of our population that feed not only the 317 million Americans, but hundreds of millions of Americans overseas. It's really staggering to see what has been done, the innovations and the choice that is there. So if there's an agreement, it will mean there's going to be a greater choice for consumers, higher quality, lower prices. And again, at the end of the day, the consumer can choose what to buy, whether it will be a U.S.-made product or an Austrian-made product. They will have the ultimate sovereignty in terms of their ultimate choice. There is some concern about GMOs, but Americans are just as concerned about the quality of the food they eat as Europeans would be. And as long as there is scientific evidence that there's a problem in any one product, Americans won't accept it, just like Europeans won't. But we do want a solid base of scientific evidence and not just hearsay saying, well, we simply cannot accept this product because it's been genetically modified in one way or another. Many of the crops that we use, the crops that now feed the world, the crops that will feed the world in 2050 when we have 9 billion people on the earth, they have been modified to a certain extent. And once again, you have scientific rigor, you've got regulation on the part of government agencies, and anything that is not meeting the standards will not be accepted. But those that do meet the standards and have gone through scientific, rigorous examinations, those should be accepted on both sides of the Atlantic. Well, these talks have been going on for less than 1 year, whereas the talks for a proposed U.S. Trans-Pacific Trade and Investment Partnership, they've been going on for well over 3 years. As things are talked about and then truly negotiated, we're going to learn more and more, in particular what the stance is of the U.S., what the EU stance is, and what has been reached in common. So I would say be patient, because everything is going to come out. And there's even more than that. The EU has already reached a political agreement with Canada, our #1 trading partner. And within the next 2 months, that Canadian agreement will be released by the Canadian government. So we're going to have a template available for everyone to look at. And many of the parts of that agreement between the EU and Canada will also be found in any potential agreement between the United States and the EU. So I would say, be patient about the release of information. They're talking now about very sensitive topics. They're talking about whether down the line this will not only be an agreement between the EU and the US, but it will expand, for example, to Mexico. Because if you can have like the NAFTA countries, that's the United States, Canada, and Mexico join with the EU, we're talking about almost 1 billion people. We're talking about almost $40 trillion in annual GNP. And this could be a really remarkable agreement, which can then be spread to other countries. Maybe they'll want to join. And all we'll say is, well, if you're willing to abide by the rules, yes, please do come in. So it's not something that really is secretive. It's not something that basically is going to lead to a very closed trading bloc. It's something that's going to set an example, set the template again, that can be used with other countries as well, and hopefully it's going to be a win-win situation, lead to greater trade, greater investment, more choice for consumers, lower prices for consumers, and more jobs. One thing they can do is go on the internet, and the European Commission has a site already. They can go to the site of the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative in the United States. There are also various groups that are commenting on what's going on. For example, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in the European Union has just come out with a big document on what it would like to see in the agreement. And there's various other sources in civil society that are now posting very good information. So if someone's really interested, and of course maybe really concerned, there are a number of documents online which will help them to get the information they're looking for.